In today's video, I'm going to talk about litter training your ferret. Axel is very well toilet trained, and so I get a lot of questions about how I toilet train and everything like that. So I'm going to hopefully share with you my methods and answer those questions in this video. First things first, the things that you're going to need to successfully toilet train are patience and so a litter box. You need to have the right sort of litter box. So they're gonna want to go in a corner. Some people, instead of using a litter box, they choose to use just a puppy pad stuck in a corner or on the floor, and that's fine too. It's just be prepared when that gets soiled to just replace it. And obviously if you're using a litter tray, just spot clean as you see fit. But yeah, they're going to want to go in a corner. So you want to set up I'm just going to say litter tray for the purposes of the video, but if you're using a puppy pad, then that means your puppy pad. So in a corner in their cage, they will probably pick their own corner before you start toilet training them. So if they're going consistently in one corner, then make that the place that you put your litter box. Also, when you're starting out, I think it's nice to have one out in the room that they're going to be roaming in, they're going to be playing in. So have one in a corner in the room, perhaps where their cage is in, or wherever they get out and play and run around. The box itself. So there are loads of choices of different litter boxes that you can use for ferrets. I've had a few different ones at the moment. I think I'm just using like large, shallow cat litter trays, and with the one that's a little bit deeper, I've just got like a handsaw and cut a ridge down into that so that he can step in easier. They like to have a lot of room when they're about to go to the toilets, because what they'll do is they'll go over to the area that they want to go, and then they'll turn around and put their tail up and like squat a little bit and reverse into the corner where they want to go. That requires a certain amount of room for them to be able to move that way. So if it's really small and they're trying to step over a large lip or something as they go backwards, you're just going to end up with a mess everywhere. They're not going to get it in the litter tray. The corner pans that are marketed for ferrets, in my opinion, they're no good, because they're like this big, and they don't want to step over that lip when they're going back in there. They want to ideally be able to get all 4 feet in the litter tray and then reverse into the corner. If you haven't got a ferret yet, you'll see what I mean about all of this reversing when they start going to the toilet. So yeah, a spacious litter tray. I've used in the past just plastic storage boxes. You can get them sometimes cheaper than litter trays, and then just like saw one end off. So then like on one side you've got no lip at all. It just sort of goes streamlined with the floor of the enclosure. That is in a bunch of my videos. You can see that tray that I'm referring to there. Next, the type of litter. So you don't want to use cat litter. What I mean by that is like clay litters, silicone litters, things that are made out of like non-natural products that are absolutely fine for cats, not the same for ferrets. For ferrets, you want to use, again, if you're not using puppy pads, what you want to use for your litter is like fragrance chemical free recycled wood pellets or recycled paper pellets. I use the recycled wood pellets just because I find them to be cheaper. You can just get like a huge bag of them. What they do is just break down into finer pieces of like sawdusty type wood, and then you know, so if you see it like in a finer way than the pellets themselves, then you know that that's where they've done a wee, and obviously you can see where they've done a poop. So you can spot clean those bits as you see them. However, when you're in the training process, and even beyond that, ferrets find it very useful if you leave a little bit of the scent of them having been to the toilet there when you clean it. So when you're cleaning the tray, obviously you can just like take everything out and disinfect it and put fresh litter in and whatever, but put a bit of soiled litter back in there or even just leave a bit of poop. If you're picking out all the poop, just leave a small amount in there, not like a gross amount, but like a small amount in there, so that they can come over, and because they will sniff around and they'll use their nose and go, this is where I go, and then they go. So you want to leave a little bit of that scent there to help them when they're in the litter training process. So my main method is this. Every time they wake up, normally they've been asleep for a long time and they've got some poop or they've got a full bladder in there ready to go. So when they wake up, they're going to probably go to the toilet. So when they go, you say toilet or whatever your command is. Mine is do your toilet, like that. But yeah, you can use anything you want, but have a command and stick to it. And when you know they need to go, you say it. You don't let them out of the cage until they've done it. And better still, until they've done it in the litter box. You might start out by just trying to have a goal of not getting them to go all over the floor, and then being more strict about it being in the right place in the litter box every time. So if they don't look like they're going towards the right area, you can pick them up, put them in the litter box and say toilet. Then when they do it, as they're doing it, say it again, toilet, just reinforce it. And then as soon as they're finished going, you shove a treat in their mouth, or you let them out to play and yay, praise, praise, praise. And then all of that. And every single time before you let them out for playtime, because my cat, hi, leave him alone. Every single time they want to come out and they're at the cage bars like this, toilet, and then they will learn that that means that they have to go. So you don't let them out until they go, and every time they're going, say the command and then reward them immediately after.
Do your toilet. Good boy. Come on then.
Sometimes, obviously, because you can't be with them all the time and see if they've just got up, or hang on, have they been up and about for like half an hour and maybe they've already been, they don't have anything in there, in which case when you're commanding them to go to the toilet, they're going to just be like, I don't have anything. What they will do is something called faux poos, like fake poos. So they will, when they get the idea of when I go to the toilet, I get a treat or I get come out and play, they will do this thing when they get in the litter box and they squat and they'll like put their tail up in reverse and they'll go like, and then they'll be faking it. There's nothing there, but they know that that's what they needed to do, so that they're trying to do it, or they're pretending to do it to give you what you're asking for. So that is really funny, and I think that shows that like they're really quite intelligent. If they do that several times in a row, then you can pretty much be like, okay, you don't have anything, and then let them out or do what they want to do. And if you see them, they're going around the room and they're needing the toilet. If you have ferrets already, if you've kept ferrets, you'll know what I mean by what they look like when they need the toilet, because they're almost in a hurry. Whatever they're doing, it will be very like and frantic, and then they'll sort of start looking around and sniffing around. If you're still in toilet training phase, when that happens, pick them up, put them in the litter tray, toilet, like go to the toilet, treat. It's really, really important to keep reinforcing that and literally saying the words and giving the treats every single time, because there will be times when you're not there. Like when they go in the night and things like that, you're not going to be there, so you need to reinforce that as much as you physically can, and they will just get the knack of when they hear you say that word and then they do that afterwards, it equals what they want. It's nothing stricter than that. You don't, if they have an accident, don't punish them, don't do anything. If they're sort of halfway through going, you can pick them, if it's not so gross, you can pick them up and put them in the tray. or when they're finished going, you can pick them up and put them in the tray. But don't tell them off, don't scold them, because that's going to do literally, they're not going to understand that you're telling them off for pooing on the floor. They just don't. Also, they don't do it out of spite. A lot of people think that,
oh, my ferret was really naughty and then I told him off and then he like pooed on the floor.
that's not a thing. With any animal, like spite toileting is not a thing. They're just going because they need to go. It's not personally because they know you don't like it. And so, yeah, I mean, basically that's what my method is, and it's very simple. Just don't let them come out and have playtime and treats until they've gone to the toilet. Even if, say, if they're not doing these faux poos, so you can't really tell if there's nothing in there, they're not at that stage yet. Just sit on the floor next to their cage for 5, 10, 15 minutes and just keep saying it until they go. And that you just have to be like very persistent with it. And in the end, you will get what you want to get. It is also worth saying that you can toilet train a kit this way, and then they can be great for years. And then some part way through their life, as ferrets get a little bit older, they will often have a lapse in their toilet training. So out of nowhere, once they get to a certain age, they may start pooping out of place. And this has happened with Axel, and this has happened with a bunch of other ferrets and other people's ferrets that I know. Sometimes in life, you will have to do this toilet training again, and that's not an unusual thing. That's not a bad thing. It doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. It doesn't mean they can't hold it. It's literally just keeping up that association, because after years have gone by, they're not still going to have that strong in their mind that every time they go in the litter tray they get a treat, because perhaps you haven't continued it on for 5, 6, 7 years. But it is really good to do that. Just always have some healthy treats on hand, and praising them for doing the right thing is going to have so much more success than you ever would with scolding from doing the wrong thing. And that goes with pretty much all animal training that I've ever done. Positive reinforcement is the best thing. So when they wake up, say toilet, or go to the toilet, and then you give them a treat, you let them out to play. And if they don't do that, or at least try, then they don't come out until they do. It's just going to take some persistence from you guys as owners. So I have my litter trays here, and Axel is in the teepee in his dressing gown. He looks really comfy. Hi. Hi, precious. You can stay there, it's okay. You don't have to come out. Oh dear. Oh, stretch those legs. What's all your litter trays doing out, my friend? They're confusing. He's a good boy. A good boy, yes you are. Do you want to demonstrate? These are give or take all the ones that I've ever used. So the ones with litter in are the ones that I'm using currently in Axel's free roam setup, and then the clear ones are ones that I was using in his caged setups. Obviously these two are just cat litter trays. They're both called large size cat litter trays, and the front one is shallow enough for him to very comfortably step into it, whereas the back one is not. So I've cut a ferret sized entrance into that, and then obviously sanded it down so that it didn't have any jagged edges or anything like that. And that is what I did with these two as well, except for these two were just clear plastic storage bins. So that one has a little bit more depth to it, a little bit more floor space, whereas that one is more of a corner one. And then you can see as well where I have drilled holes in them, and then you can just slip cable ties through that to secure them to the cage, because they may or may not have a desire to move the tray themselves, and that's not good. These ones are really my preference because there is no stepping required whatsoever from most angles at which they would enter the tray. So then why do I not use these ones, and why do I use these ones at the moment? It's because once they are very comfortable in using these litter boxes and it's sort of ingrained within them, then you can take it a step further by asking them to be able to deal with stepping into it. So the thing is, with him being free roam in this room, if I was using these very open ones, there would inevitably be litter coming out and tracking further along the floor through the carpet and whatnot. Whereas with these, all of the litter is contained. So if they're newer to the process, then I would recommend doing this. These have served me really, really well. And then once they're a little more advanced, and you don't want the litter being tracked out into a wider space, then it's good to move on to something like this. But if they're in a cage, or even if you can place these in a particular nook in a corner, like a 3-sided corner or something like that, so that things can't really track out into the room, then great. But that's the sort of the difference between those. And the wood pellet litter is what I use with newspaper as a piece of liner. They're not perfectly clean, like I'll do a deep clean on them every few days, but like I said, leaving a little bit of scent behind, as bad as it sounds, is going to help them to navigate and to know where it is correct for them to go to the toilet. So as you can see in this one, where those pellets have started to break down into dust, that is where it's been used. So that means that there's 2 weaves that have been done in there. So that's how you know, and how you know when you need to clean it out. And I also wanted to touch on the placement of your trays within the cage. So as I already said, it's best for them to go in a corner. And oftentimes before you've begun training, your ferret will already choose that corner for you. However, keeping it the same corner throughout the whole time can be a little bit more tricky. So my tray obviously goes there. I have one puppy pad underneath it, just for in case of spillage, or because they do like to wipe their bottom on the ground when they get out of the tray. And you may have heard of something called ferret boot camp with regard to toilet training. And basically what this means is the method of training them when they're in cage and when they're locked in the cage. And basically it just means using a small amount of space and only providing them with one corner as an opportunity to use as the toilet. So in this case, you would have your tray there, for example, then you've already got one bed in that corner. You would probably put another bed in that corner, and then you might put some food or something in this corner. And so where there's bedding or there's food, the idea is that they're not going to want to soil their food or their bed, so they will go to the best, most viable option, which is where you've already presented them with a place to go. One tip as well to do with leaving a bit of that scent in there is that if you can tell perhaps that they need to go or it's time for them to go, if you're redirecting them and putting them in the tray, then you can hold them while they're in there and sort of direct them to smell the area where there is going to be scent there. And then often when they smell the scent of their own toilets from before, it really stimulates them to go, so that can be quite helpful as well. Hopefully that's helpful. I've probably forgotten some tips and tricks along the way. I have another trick video about pooping out of place when they're older, and something that you can do if they suddenly start going somewhere that you need them not to go. So you can check out that video as well. I have a bunch of other videos on ferret care and training and setups and things. So have a look through those. If you have any questions that I haven't answered, then leave those in the comments. I do always respond if there's somebody asking for help and advice. So thanks for watching.